Okay, for me, it hasn't been too long since I recorded the last video and you heard me talk, but you guys probably asked. All right, so we were talking before about consciousness. What is the world made of, according to Neville Goddard, and how can we change it? It's consciousness, and you change consciousness, the world, by your assumptions. If that's unclear, then I went in great detail. Went into it in great detail the last video, and I'll go into greater detail more later on. Okay, so we are here. I am is the reality to which whatever happens, we must turn to the phenomena of life. All right, we already went there. It is I am's concept of itself, and a concept of itself. Concept is an assumption, but it's the assumption or the concept of itself that determines the form and scenery of its existence. I don't think I go over here. Okay. Yeah, basically you're free from second causes when you realize that consciousness is the one and only reality, conceiving itself to be many different things. We'll go over into what many different possible things could be. Okay. Everything depends on concept of its or attitude or concept of self. I like the term concept of self. It sticks in my head a lot. But this just means everything depends on its attitude or concept of itself, which it will not, that which it will not affirm as true of itself cannot awaken it. Okay. So yeah, after you have the initial concept, you have to affirm that it's true, or else it won't. Reality won't conform to it, and it will not awaken or manifest or reveal itself to you. Okay, there's some examples here. I'm strong, I'm secure, I'm loved. Determines the world which you live. Okay, yes. So he actually put some examples to what does assumption mean? What does concept of self mean? Okay, when you say I'm strong, I'm rich, I'm whatever poor, then it'll manifest if you persist in this and assume it. If you assume and persist in it. Okay. Okay, he goes into more examples about what a form of consciousness could look like, because up here in the last video I talked about how I am manifests in many different forms. What is that? Okay. Consciousness, or I am, is expressed in an infinite series of levels, but the levels depend on the concept of themselves. Okay. Yeah, you're not defining different concepts of the one, but no, you are defining different concepts or arrangements of the one cause substance, the God, which is the foundation of everything. Okay, even in the phenomena of nature, if a tree were to be, okay, so this is kind of, okay, yeah, so he says the tree could talk, then it would say, oh, tree. When you know that consciousness is one and all reality, okay, you're free from the tyranny of second causes. Yeah, so he introduces a concept here, outside of your own mind. Let me read this sentence over again. So when you know that consciousness is the one and only reality, conceiving itself to be whatever, good, bad, and different, and becoming that which it conceived itself to be, and you are free from the tyranny of second causes, because you are familiar with consciousness being the cause substance and the foundation on which everything is made of and rests. Then you're free from second causes because you can assume whatever you want. And if you persist in it, then consciousness will conform to that assumption. So you don't have to react to whatever. It's not easy, especially if you maybe weren't raised with this worldview in mind, that by your assumptions you can conform reality to whatever you want, whatever your assumptions are. But there are causes outside of your own mind that can affect you. All right, yeah, hopefully that makes sense. All right, in the state of consciousness of the individual, it is found the explanation of phenomena of life. If we go over, yeah, okay. All right, state of consciousness, phenomena of life. State of consciousness of the individual. He's restating the same thing. Okay. He's restating what I am. I have a little bit of qualms with this. It's abundantly clear. It's abundantly clear to somebody who takes Neville's word for it that consciousness is the foundation. Yeah, but according to the book here, it's not clear otherwise. If you're only to, and so I want to, in the later parts of the book, almost the very end, he says that the fact that you are God cannot be debated or intellectualized. It can only be felt. And so me, as the person who has not felt that I'm God, because there's but it's not abundantly clear. But this is what Neville says. Thus it is abundantly clear there's only one I am, and you are that I am. And while I am is infinite, by you, your concept of self only displaying a limited aspect of the infinite I am. Okay. And then he quotes a poem by, what's his name? Oliver Wendell Holmes. And it was, it's understood or interpreted that the poem means the last one. So if you want to look up the Chambered Nautilus by Oliver Wendell Holmes, Chambered Nautilus, he starts out with a couple examples and then he finishes off with this one right here: building more stately mansions, leave thy love of the past, and then make higher and higher concepts of yourself, which Neville goes into a lot here. All right, okay. So what are we at here? Oh, okay, we're gonna go to chapter 2, which is consciousness. So in summary of chapter 1, let's see, do I go over summary here? Right, okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, I do make a summary here. So I already went over this. Can't be divided. It is one. It is the foundation. At the center of manifestation. First cause substance. Okay, so these are all the definitions of I am. And okay, consciousness. So this is all that I am is as far as chapter 1 is concerned. So, and this is the definitions. These are the definitions of consciousness as far as chapter 1 is concerned. So consciousness is I am, consciousness is reality, and each individual concept of self will determine what the reality looks like. The arrangement of consciousness. Okay, and you're free from the tyranny of second causes because you, by your assumptions, can change reality or change consciousness. Okay, so yeah, summary really quick. Consciousness is one in different levels. I went over this a lot. The very center of consciousness is the feeling of I am. I am awareness of being. Okay, so in the latter parts of the book, I am is used instead of consciousness. So I want you to right now think, whenever he says I am, think consciousness, think reality, think the core of what is for our God. So every time, it can be hard to keep track, but to understand what Neville says, this is what he's saying I am is defined as. Okay, so since it's the center of consciousness and the absolute foundation of everything, I went over that. It doesn't change. Consciousness is I am, and the basic arrangement, the arrangement will change based on assumptions. The reality for which everything, yeah, I mean, he goes over this concept. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but he goes over this many times. And I go over it a lot of times, but that it'll be more real, and you'll be able to think of how you want to change your reality in clearer terms if you understand that how you have lived your whole life if you're new to Neville, if you whenever think back to when you were new to Neville, you thought that, well, no, reality is reality. Like what I touch is reality, and I am me, and you didn't use the power of assumption to change reality. And now, you know, the whole like world shifts, and you can't think, you can't act the same, you can't treat people the same. But yeah, that comes easier, that identity shift with the information, that of all the stuff that I said, is quite a shift, and you just need to hammer it in, because another thing that comes into play is mindfulness. As you go throughout your day, you monitor your reactions, and you can easily monitor your reactions by maintaining some kind of mindfulness habit. He goes over that later on, but I highly recommend mindfulness, like today, yesterday. Start, 10 minutes, 5 minutes sitting down and just thinking whatever thoughts, or noticing whatever thoughts go through your head. Anyway, concept of self is a limited version of I am. That's the main idea. And I was just thinking, if you had no concept of self, which maybe isn't possible as humans, because we're physical beings. We have like chemicals that influence our thoughts, and we're biological. I don't know, maybe. I take that back, actually. I don't know. I'm just thinking here. Okay, so chapter 2 is only by change of consciousness, by actually changing your concept, that you can build those stately mansions and ascend to higher and higher levels. That term, the higher and higher levels, is talked about a lot in later books. So I use it right now, even though you may not realize where it comes from. If you haven't studied the book, that's what he means by ascending. Means assuming higher and nobler concepts of yourself by ascending closer and closer to God. That's what he means by this, building stately mansions, assuming higher concepts of yourself. Okay, so by manifestations of higher and higher concepts is building more stately mansions. By manifesting is meant experiencing the results of the concepts in your world. It is of vital importance to understand clearly just what consciousness is. Let's see if I don't even remember what kind of new definitions he ascribes to consciousness. Okay, I did want to go back and say something about this. Manifesting is meant experiencing the results of these concepts of your world. So I think I'm going to draw a picture. If reality, the foundation, God, I am, consciousness, it were to be pictured as like a foundation, like a really cool, nebulous thing, there are different concepts, okay, of awareness. And these are different identities. These are different concepts of self. So this is one person, and this is one person, this is one person, but it's all connected. This is how I like to think about it. The basic cause substance is the same. We're all part of this form, the consciousness of I am. But there's little like spikes where you can differentiate I am by concept of self, by having a different concept of self. So since I am is all of reality, these little tiny concepts of self, these individual concepts of self, can only experience a small part of it. We can't experience all of it at the same time, because we are a tiny concept of self. Well, relatively, we're just a sliver of consciousness. And so when you manifest, when you select what you want to experience by assumption, you only experience a small sliver. That's how I like to think about it, because everything already is. That's explained later on, but you experience only what you can. because we are limited as human beings. We have limited organs of perception, and so we can only experience a little bit. As we move on to the track of life, we can experience little things and change our destiny. He goes over that destiny in a late chapter. But yeah, we can only stay on this track until we lose concept of self, or until maybe we're ascended somehow, or we're shown the promise. We can only stay on this track as humans. That's what I think. This is all my interpretation. Maybe this helps you think about consciousness and what he's the big like things that Neville is talking about. Hopefully this helps. Okay. What consciousness? All right, so we're going to define consciousness. The reason lies consciousness. Well, no, here I already said this. First, only cause substance. I already said that. Nothing is existence. Okay. Therefore, it is to consciousness. Okay, he's already said that as well. We accept the idea of a first cause. Okay, so first cause follows that the evolution of that cause could never be anything foreign to itself. So I talk about first cause. Okay, yeah. I looked up first cause, and it is a teleological argument for the existence of God. So it's basically like, since God was first, or God was first, and therefore nothing can result. Everything is from God, or I don't think that's correct. But it's what he's saying right now. He may be using the same terms of first cause. To that early theologians used to defend the existence of God. Actually, let's look at it together. It's a long time ago. Okay, self-created being. All right. The main argument that I saw in opposition to this was that, well, why is God the only self-created being? If this argument is self-defeating, because they're just assuming, like pretending that, well, God is the only self-created being. Nothing else is self-created. Only God is. Like how can you say that? So there's that. You can look into it if you want to more. Yeah, but that's I want you to separate that when you read first cause. Don't he's not saying that. He's using this kind of logic, this kind of argument. So let's go into exactly what he says. So if the first cause substance is light, then all manifestations remain light. So if you were to assume that the first cause substance is consciousness, is God, is I am, then it would you can make sense of the fact that, oh well, it can't create something that is not similar or not from what was. Put your time. So if I am is here, I am is all that was, is consciousness, is reality, then we are manifestations of I am, and reality is also a manifestation of I am. But yeah, he was just using the first cause term to describe that logical progression. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. Like if parents, they pass along their genes. Oh man, time's up. Okay. So we summarized chapter 1, defining I am. We went over the beginning of chapter 2. We went over this little picture of I am. That maybe was helpful. And we're going to continue on with chapter 2 in the next video. I'll see you later.